I'm joined on the show today by Democratic Congressman Collin Allred, who just won the Democratic nomination for Senate to run against Ted Cruz in the state of Texas. And I'm very grateful that he's given his first interview as the Democratic nominee to this show. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I want to start this in a sort of unconventional way and play clips for you.
Okay.
Unfortunately, of Ted Cruz, and then I'll have you respond to them as we go along.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Sounds good.
All right.
And I love this story, and so I'm going to read it to you. Sam I am. That Sam I am, that Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am.
Huh.
Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
So do you remember what that was about?
That was when he was trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Yep.
He was filibustering. And I guess, he decided to ruin a lot of kids' favorite book.
So on the policy at issue here, as you mentioned, he was filibustering, trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. One of your first acts in Congress was to stand up to these partisan attacks on the Affordable Care Act, maintaining protection for people with pre-existing health conditions and expanding coverage for working families. And right now we're in a moment where, once again, the likely Republican nominee is talking about, I want to repeal
That's right.
the Affordable Care Act. So unlike Ted Cruz, how will you work to protect and expand health care for Americans?
I mean, they're back at it. They're saying they're going to terminate the Affordable Care Act was one of the words. And, Ted Cruz, this is during the Obama presidency. He's shutting down the government to try and say for President Obama to repeal his own signature Health Care Act, which is the definition of a stunt, right? Mm-hmm. But, we have the highest uninsured rate in the country here in Texas. You would think that if you are one of our senators, you'd be trying to expand our coverage and cover more Texans.
Yeah, to me, this is the quintessential example of these sort of Republican stunts, especially from someone like Ted Cruz, where he thinks he's being playful and silly and it gets him maybe a hit on Fox News. But the underlying policy there
It's dark.
is really dark.
It's dark.
This next clip is Ted Cruz fist bumping a fellow Republican senator. And you would think watching that, they must have done something wonderful, right? That was directly after voting against a bill, the PACT Act, that would have expanded health coverage for veterans exposed to toxic burn pits. Give me a response to that.
First of all, it's a whack fist bump. They're uncoordinated. But seriously, of course, what they were doing here, again, is very dark, which is trying to prevent us trying to expand coverage to veterans who've served in war zones or in places where they've been exposed to these toxic substances, particularly burn pits. And so many of our post 9/11 veterans have been exposed to this. And these are folks who stepped up to serve after we were attacked in 9/11, who have served in some of the most dangerous places in the world. The idea was to make it easier for them so that when they came home and they had these respiratory illnesses that we knew were tied to their service, they didn't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. They could just get the care they needed. Very simple. And I remember during this debate when Cruz and some of these others were trying to block us from doing this, they kept making it about all these other things, the cost and things like that. And it's like, listen, when we deploy these young folks, when we ask them to go serve us around the world, we have made a commitment to them that when they come back, that we're going to take care of them. And this fist bump is about not taking care of them.
Yep.
And it just could not be any more messed up. And this is a bipartisan bill too. It's something that we should not even be fighting about, and certainly shouldn't be celebrating, trying to block.
One of the things that I try to explain to people is they get caught up a lot of people doing sort of the culture war stuff or these Fox News talking points. But when you really pay attention to the policy, Republicans have been a disaster, especially in the House, but also in large part in the Senate, not really focusing on implementing real solutions for people. Whereas Democrats over the last few years had a pretty historic list of achievements, whether it be the American Rescue Plan, Inflation Reduction Act, the PACT Act. And these are things that if almost any American would just look into the policy itself and don't get distracted by all the stunts that we see from people like Ted Cruz, they could realize, while far from perfect, there's really only one quote unquote side working in my interest.
Time after time, you see when we're trying to do something substantive, It's kind of these, like you said, these stunts, these kind of clowns who are saying, no, if it can be used to say, politically that it's going to help the other side, we don't want to do it. And we saw that recently with the border bill we're trying to do. Ted Cruz came out against it, not because of the policy, because of the politics, right? He wants to run on the issue.
Yep.
He wants to have a problem. And I hope folks can wake up to this. Like, that's what they want, is to have the problem so they can point it out, but not solve it. I've always tried to be a problem solver. And I think when you're raised by a single mom, you just kind of grow up that way, where you just don't really have time for this kind of nonsense. Because there are folks out there who are working hard and are hoping that we're working as hard as they are.
We're around the 3-year anniversary, if you want to call it that, of Ted Cruz fleeing to Cancun. And really, to this day, I saw something somewhat recently where he's joking about it, trying to make light of it.
I gotta say, Orlando is awesome. It's not as nice as Cancun.
Further betraying his misunderstanding about why that was so outrageous. Speak to that, not just for what it was, but what it represents about Ted Cruz.
So the word that came to mind, and I did an interview during the crisis where I said this, is the callousness and the arrogance of it. Callousness because you just have to just really not care. You just have to really feel like, my state's in crisis, and you know what? There's a good deal on a hotel in Cancun. Let's get out of here. You're an elected official. You're a United States senator. There's so much that he could have been doing. I know, because I was doing the equivalent here in Dallas. I was at a food bank trying to help hand out food to folks who had lost everything when their power went out. We were constantly on the phone with FEMA and with our county health officials trying to find buildings that had power on, so they'd be called warming centers, so that folks could just go there and get warm. I mean, the callousness and the arrogance of it. And then, like you said, to still be joking about it, man. I mean, like, come on. Like, we deserve something better than that. We deserve something better than somebody who thinks that it's funny when 30 million Texans are freezing in the dark. We had hundreds of Texans who died. There were thousands more who were displaced, had their lives interrupted in ways that they're still dealing with.
Rapid fire game, you're going to say, it's called Cruz or Ruse, okay? So I'm either going to read you something that is correctly assessing or describing something Ted Cruz did, or making up something about it, okay?
Gotcha.
And you'll guess if it's Cruz or if it's me rusing.
All right, I'll try to
you.
do my best.
All right, ready? Senator Rafael Edward Cruz, that's his full name, who uses the preferred name of Ted. Okay, fair. Introduced a bill into Congress to limit the use of preferred names and pronouns.
That's true, unfortunately. I saw the San Antonio Express. Shout out to them. I think they were the ones who got that story put in front of me. So.
Yeah. Again, the priorities. A little strange.
That's right.
Ted Cruz, who is paid with our tax dollars to be a senator, not to host a podcast, does 3 to 5 podcast episodes a week. Collin.
It's true. I mean, you tell me, how much effort does it take, right?
It's a lot of effort.
It's a lot.
I'm concerned that he's able to do that much.
Yeah, and they're like an hour long.
Yeah. Ted, it's crazy. What? Just do that. Go be a podcaster.
Right.
Ted Cruz endorsed someone for president who, we won't say who called his wife or alluded to his wife being ugly and suggested his father was in cahoots with JFK's assassination.
Yeah, this is unfortunately very true.
And then Ted Cruz won his Senate race by only 2.6% last go around in 2018. And this election is the best opportunity we've had to win in Texas in decades.
That's right. Let's do it.
There it is. So they're all true.
Yeah. I mean, sadly true, right?
Sadly true.
Yeah.
You don't have to make up things to describe the absurdity of Ted Cruz. Congressman, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate
Quickly
you.
before we go, where can people support your campaign?
Yeah. Go to collinallred.com or text Texas to 90678 to get involved with us. We could use your help.
Let's do it.